Podcast on the go. I am in my car. Luckily today I'm not behind a dumpster, but I know it sounds really creepy. I tell the classes that I teach and the people that I work with that I'm the behind the dumpster guy when it comes to content because I'm usually remote, whether I'm doing a podcast or a live or teaching a class. It's wherever I am is where I am, and sometimes yes, it may be an alleyway or in a dumpster. Today, it's inside a car in a parking lot. Okay, so today's topic is actually a spin. So you've all heard of the four horsemen of the apocalypse by John Gottman, right? These are the four communication styles that lead to divorce. I will go through them in case you haven't heard of them. But John Gottman is, he's a world-renowned researcher, and he has been able to predict divorce at a astonishing high rate, like 90-something%. And if you have these four things in your relationship, your marriage, then you are headed, the plane is going down. Eventually. It's just a matter of time. And those four things are, one, criticism. And I think there's degrees of this, right? Like all of them, there's degrees. But criticism, if you find yourself or your partner criticizing you, or you're criticizing your partner, putting a black light to your partner, pointing out what is wrong, and usually behind criticism, there is control. Subtle or not, there is this kind of, you should be like this, you should do that, right? All of that. So criticism is one of them. Contempt, and I see contempt, because I'm a visual person, I see contempt as eye rolling, not taking someone seriously. Also, character assassination, to me, falls under contempt. Assassinating someone's character, And then there is defensiveness. And anytime we are defensive, we are holding up a shield, we are defending, we are flipping the magnet by doing so, pushing someone away. We'll get to the opposite of that. And then the last one is stonewalling. And stonewalling is when you check out because you can't handle the emotion, or you decide to put the wall up because you don't want to deal with something, And sometimes people stonewall for minutes. Sometimes people stonewall for days. And so those are the four horsemen of the apocalypse. These are the four things that will bring your relationship / marriage down. It's just a matter of time if these things are happening. Now, it's really bad if all four are happening to a high degree. So first ask yourself if you are doing these things, or if your partner is doing these things to you, or maybe you guys are both doing these things, right? Then there is no engine of the plane. The plane is just like spiral, the tail spinning. But here's a spin on this. Speaking of tail spinning, here's a spin on this. Because chances are about you've heard this before, right? The four apocalypse, the four horsemen of the apocalypse. My question to you is this. Are you doing the opposite? So you may not be doing these things. You may have, or generally speaking, you may not be doing these things, but are you doing the opposite? And that's what I really want to talk to you about today. So the opposite, let's go through them. To me, the opposite of defensiveness is ownership. Owning means here's what I'm willing to take responsibility for. I will work on it, right? Ownership isn't just words. It is action. It's not everything that I say I'm going to do. It's actually the action of implementing change in my life. And I will show you, not tell you. Of course, you can tell someone, but it's more important to show someone the ownership instead of the announcement of the ownership. A lot of people talk a lot of shit, and they say, hey, you know what? You're right. This is what I need to work on. And it stops there. It stops with that sentence. And so ownership means to, in action, take responsibility. your shortcomings or whatever you want to own, you know? So, are you actively doing that? Criticism, the opposite of criticism to me is supporting, championing, seeing the good in your partner instead of who they could be, right? I think also the opposite of criticism starts with acceptance. And I'll be honest with you, I've been guilty of this in many relationships. Even the one I'm in today, just because of my old patterns, whether I'm doing it consciously, unconsciously, subtly. I'm not doing it like in a very blunt way. Hopefully, but sometimes I'll find myself indirectly criticizing, you know, and so I need to work on accepting the person for who that person is, and then seeing the good, pointing out the good, championing the good and one story instead of taking a black light and pointing out, you know, what's wrong or what's missing. Also, I got to say with criticism, it's not just a person, but are you also constantly criticizing the relationship? I do this a lot. I'm guilty for, if I'm not taking a black light to my partner, I've been known to take a black light to the relationship, get in my head, start spinning, doubt the relationship, amplify the differences in my head and all of that stuff. So I have to make sure that I'm not criticizing the relationship, but instead seeing the good, right? With in a an honest way. I'm not saying to be false about it. Like if you're in an abusive relationship, I'm not saying for you to try to see the good in that. You got to be honest. You got to be honest. Stonewalling. What's the opposite of stonewalling? The opposite of stonewalling is being vulnerable. It's not leaving. It's staying in the uncomfortable and having the tough conversations. It's saying, hey, listen, this is how I feel. I'm not blaming you, but I'm expressing my state because we're doing life together. Or if you do step away, it's saying, hey, listen, I need some time. And I think that's fair, right? I need to take a walk. I need a few minutes. I need to process for a little bit. I feel myself getting overwhelmed, and I don't want to explode or throw a chair or put my energy on you. I want to be responsible for my energy. So can you give me a minute? Now you must return. If you don't return, you are stonewalling. Well, if you don't return, you just left a relationship, right? So you got to come back. And communicating that you're going to go somewhere and come back, I think is okay. That's not stonewalling. It's when you just shut down. It's a pattern of shutting down, which then leaves your partner to do the relationship on his or her own, right? You have, in my eyes, you've left. You've left the relationship, even if it's for 5 minutes. If you are leaving, you exit without communicating. You've just checked out of the relationship, right? So, opposite of stonewalling, opposite of criticism, opposite of contempt, and opposite of defensiveness. I think we missed contempt. What's the opposite of contempt? What's the opposite of rolling your eyes? Or what's the opposite of assassinating one's character? Did we do this? I think we did. I'm not sure. If we didn't, you're meant to hear it again. Championing one's story. So ask yourself, are you doing these things? Because most people, they hear about the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse, and they're like, oh, well, this isn't happening in my relationship, so whatever, my relationship is good. The plane is flying. But it's not just that those are in your relationship, but are you doing the opposite? And I think that's what's important. Are you taking ownership? Are you seeing the good in the relationship and actively and your partner? Are you championing, accepting, and embracing your partner's story, flaws? I don't even want to say the word flaws, but differences. And then are you showing up? Are you not checking out by holding up a shield or a wall, but are you being vulnerable and saying, hey, listen, this is what's hard for me. This is what I'm struggling with. This has nothing to do with you, but here's where I'm at, and here's what I'm doing to work on that. I believe that if you are doing the opposite of the four horsemen, then you are loving hard, or I say love hard a lot. I don't mean love hard as in you're loving with everything you have. Love hard means loving with capacity and emotional intelligence, and loving with intention and honesty, and also being honest with yourself. So that's my definition of loving hard, is the opposite of John Gottman's four horsemen. If you are doing the opposite of those four, and if you're doing all four, you're not a horseman, you're a unicorn. That was stupid. I'm sorry. Thank you for listening. Be well.